Have you ever looked at a body part and not known what it is?
Well, okay, so when we get the bodies back from the medical examiner after an autopsy, all of the organs are just stuffed into a red hazmat bag and shoved back into the body cavity. So when we take off the sutures and we pull out the red hazmat bag, sometimes there are things in that bag that I could not identify for sure.
What is your favorite organ to handle in the human body?
Ooh, the brain, obviously.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Why the brain?
Because it feels like you are holding the seat of the soul somehow for me. And then, it's...
So you're a brain soul rather than heart soul?
I'm a bit of a brain soul person, and I also think that it has this kind of... It feels like a place that I have no right to be. In the sense that I am not a doctor, I am not a scientist. I feel like holding someone's brain is such a unique privilege and such a profound, because you're really like holding who the person was and their personality and the seat of their intellect.
Wow.
And being able to hold that, even if it's just while you're transferring it to sew up the head properly or whatever you're doing, it just feels like a real privilege to me.
If I'm gonna narrow it down and say just inside the torso, what's your favorite organ? God, line of questioning I never thought I'd go down, but I'm curious.
Well, I wanna know yours now too, but maybe the intestines are kind of fun. I have a medical examiner friend who, and this is why I'm so glad I'm not a medical examiner, but when they are looking through feces for evidence of why the person died, they do something called running the bowels, which means like...
We do that too!
Do you do that too?
We do that too!
Oh,
for very different reasons.
No. Explain running the bowels to the people at home.
Okay, so the reason we do it is in trauma situations, if someone is shot, if someone is stabbed, you need to identify where the source of bleeding is coming from, or if they're actually bleeding from their intestine. Why is it dangerous? A lot of blood can pool in the retroperitoneum, which is the back portion of the abdominal cavity. Next, you could also, because of what's in the intestines, create a very mean infection inside the abdominal cavity known as peritonitis. And that could be deadly even if the patient's not bleeding out, simply because the bacteria that's inside the GI tract can escape and now start infecting the entire cavity. Very, very dangerous. So when someone is brought into a trauma situation, we open their abdomen, we literally run the bowel looking to see if there's a source of bleeding or if there's a piece of the bowel that's injured. We also can see this if we do an X-ray or a CAT scan and we see air pockets inside the abdominal cavity that are outside of the intestines, because any air inside the abdomen should stay in the intestines or the bladder, never in the actual cavity. That shows us that there is an opening somewhere.
Oof, I kind of imagine it like somewhat like in an old like Roman Senate with like a scroll, like it's trying to like read all the names off and the bowel's just going and going and going. Because isn't it the length of it's like a bus, right?
Yeah, it's long. It's long, and you have to be thorough, because if you miss something, that's life or death for that patient. So while you're doing it, you're trying to do it quickly, and it's almost the opposite of what happens during a colonoscopy, because colonoscopy, you're doing the same thing, you're running the bowel, but just on the inside.